Hi, this is Annie Passberg here with Century 21 Wright and Associates. I'm here today with Lisa Buys from First American Title. She is a senior escrow officer, and we wanted to do this video today because we've been finding that a lot of first-time home buyers, as well as buyers from out of state, have a lot of questions about kind of what is escrow and title, and what role does it play specifically here in Oregon. So thanks so much for meeting with me today.
My pleasure. I'm happy to answer some questions.
Yeah.
Educate.
So the first question is, what is escrow?
Escrow. Escrow is, our role is to be a neutral third party. So we work with both buyers and sellers, not representing either side, to help facilitate the transaction, help facilitate information and signings and getting that to that final end of the road, getting your keys.
Yeah. And then what is title?
Title is a record of, it's a report, basically, of any public record that's attached to the property you're purchasing. So it can include homeowners associations, taxes, mortgages, and then also things like liens and judgments, divorce decrees, and child support, those sorts of things. Anything public records that is attached and affects your property that you're purchasing.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're kind of, when you're looking at title, then you're looking at what's going on with the property right now and how to resolve that.
That's right.
So that a buyer can get a free and clear title. And why is that important?
That's important that you get that. It's because you only want to have your obligations attached to that property. You only want your mortgage on that property. You only want taxes going forward from the day you own the property. If there's a homeowners association, you don't want there to be any previous association dues attached to the property. And so that's what we do, is it's called clearing title. We make sure title's all clear, and so the day you get your keys, you go on title and it's yours going forward with no encumbrances. And it protects you in case someone does come to you and say, hey, Mr. Seller said I could buy this house and he owes me this much money and I'm going to take your house. You're like, no, let me call First American Title. I have title insurance.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, one of the things that you talked a little bit about is that, in some states, escrow and title can be separate, but here in Oregon, they work together.
That's true. So, and in some states, people deal with attorneys instead of the escrow person. So, yeah, in Oregon, title and escrow are with the same company, and we don't typically have attorneys sitting down at the closing table with us.
Yeah, and I think it's, just to kind of reiterate what you said too, is that you are a neutral third party that works only on written instructions. So even though, a buyer or seller hasn't necessarily worked with you before, you're not representing either side of things.
That's right. I'm here to not take sides.
So, you kind of come in after the fact, after a buyer's gotten their offer accepted. And so, as a kind of a new player in the field,
Sure.
what do you need from buyers?
So the first thing is your buyers are going to want to bring us their earnest money per the contract, and they deposit those funds with us. And we'll need to get their information, their email and phone numbers. This helps us get them registered if they'd like for our secure portal so that we have a safe way to share information. We also need to know if the buyer is paying cash or if the buyer is getting a loan. If they're getting a loan, we're going to need to know their lender information. Sorry about that. And that way we can reach out to the lender and start that process of working with them also. We also need to know, are you going to be traveling? What do you need from us? What works for you for signing? What works for the buyer for the best way to communicate? So that kind of information.
Yeah, for sure. And as we all know, houses are expensive. And so, as you're working with your lender, if you're getting a house financed, which most of us are,
right?
They're going to be talking about kind of your monthly mortgage payments, but also kind of your closing costs and, what you need to bring at the date of closing. And part of those costs are with title and escrow.
Yes.
So I know you can't give any specifics, but if you can kind of talk a little bit about kind of how that shows up.
Sure.
Then.
When you get that closing disclosure, actually you'll get a loan estimate first. You'll see an escrow fee. That is what we charge for the work we do, and it's split 50-50 in Oregon between the buyer and seller. So what you see is your part. You'll get a title insurance policy. You won't see the owner's policy on there because the seller's paying for that. but you'll be paying for lender's title insurance. You do get that, fortunately, at what we call in Oregon the simultaneous rate. It's a very nice discount for the buyer, since it's a second of the same basic coverage that the owner's policy is already getting. There's recording costs to the county, and in Washington County, if you're buying in Washington County, there's transfer tax, and that is also split 50-50 between the buyer and seller.
Okay, yeah, and I think that helps clarify a lot of things too for people, because they're so used to seeing their costs, and sometimes they forget that the sellers are paying for a bunch of those costs as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, you are that neutral party that isn't representing one side or the other.
Correct, yeah.
So as we kind of go through a contract, there's a lot of steps that need to take place, and escrow and doing those title searches, takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of when we get to that last week, everyone's excited to get keys, and it's been kind of a long process.
Right.
And there can be a lot of questions around kind of what does that last week look like, and when you actually get your house.
So what's happening mostly in the last week, and the buyers and sellers don't necessarily see this, is the lender is finalizing all of their work to get their loan documents to us. And part of that is balancing and getting that closing disclosure and our settlement statement so that they match up, so that all of our figures, so we can give the buyer and seller their actual figures for closing. Once that happens, then the lender gets their loan documents to title, to escrow. The two words are kind of interchangeable in this instance. And then we schedule our signing. So the buyers come to the signing, they bring their ID, they bring their guaranteed funds of closing funds in the form of a cashier's check or wires. And we want to be really cautious with wires. Keep in mind, buyers, to always call the escrow officer before sending any wires. But so just a little little security thing there.
Exactly.
It's kind of important. So then you'll sit down, and the buyers and sellers don't sit down together and sign. The buyers will have their own appointment, come sit at the office, sign their loan documents, give us their money, ask more questions, and of course you can always ask questions along the way. Then after the signing, the escrow works with the lender, getting them the documents so that the lender can wire the funds to escrow. Once that happens, I get to say, guess what? We're recording. And then once we're recorded, Annie, that's when we let you, the agent, know, so that you can let your buyers know they can get their keys.
Yeah. So just to clarify, recording means that you kind of have put it with the county and said, this house used to belong to these sellers, and now it is going to belong to these buyers.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you come in and you've got this huge stack of documents. You sign everything with Lisa and with your buyer's agent. But the house isn't yours yet. So, like Lisa said, you've got to have the lender make sure that everything works well, and they, because they're the ones paying for the loan.
Right.
And so then that gets funded, and then it gets recorded, and then we get
Then you get your keys.
your keys.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that kind of helps clarify a lot of questions that people have, and kind of walks through that, beginning to ending phase, and kind of that behind the scenes work that you do.
And of course, we're the neutral third party who's happy to help you with any questions you have along the way. Even if we don't know the answer, we usually can direct you along the way to get an answer for you.
Yeah. Well, I hope this helped clarify a lot of things, and you can always reach out to myself or Lisa if you have more detailed questions or would like some more information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.